All right, let's get right into it. So this sigil is about stabilizing a psychic upgrade that's already starting to come online. It's an inner chamber. And we'll get into the details of what the psychic upgrade will look like when we run through the anatomy breakdown. But first, we'll pull a few tarot cards to look at how and why the sigil's here. So the first card out is the Fool. And this is the archetype or core energy the sigil is working with. Now, I normally associate the Fool with Uranus, but in this deck, it's tied to Pluto, the zero state. And the Fool here represents this creative emptiness. It's the moment before creation takes form. This sigil is working in that emptiness as the inner void you feel like right before a breakthrough or something new emerges. And that's exactly what an inner chamber is. It's the spaciousness is created on purpose here so that the new psychic function has room to form without disturbance. And then the Two of Wands is on the bottom of the deck. And that actually reaffirms this idea too, that this empty space, it isn't random. It's very intentional, and it's the point where inner potentials start converging and choosing a direction. So the new psychic function is forming, but there's really no precedent for it yet. So it may feel a little alien or unfamiliar. And this lack of precedence is exactly why it feels unfamiliar to you. I mean, the sigil, it acts as the chamber where that shift stabilizes so it doesn't overwhelm the system by blowing it open too fast. So let's look at what the structure of this energy looks like. Like, how is it playing out for you? All right, this looks like the King of Cups, and then the Ace of Wands beneath that. So the King of Cups is my man of emotional mastery. And this energy is playing out in ways that maybe look calm on the surface, but there's actually quite a bit happening underneath in the depths. So we may experience this as things like coming across calm and steady to everyone else, but internally you feel this subtle pressure building. Or maybe your emotional reactions may become more constrained than usual. Not like you're emotionally numb, but just kind of holding everything in a controlled way because you can sense that something important is developing within you. And you may find yourself withdrawing slightly in this process too, choosing depth over noise. This is all being rooted down by the raw ignition current with the Ace of Wands here. And this could feel like an energy or inspiration coming through to start something new. It may literally feel like something inside of you is also starting to kind of wake up beneath the surface, like really deep. This could look like flashes of clarity that hit, but then disappear and then hit again, with the King of Cups kind of holding those flashes of insight of the Ace of Wands steady until it's stable. I wouldn't be surprised either if you experience or you already are experiencing increased psychic sensitivity as this plays out in your life. Things like intuitive nudges, stronger gut pulls, or inner knowing activating as well. Hence why this king is coming forward as kind of that stabilizing form, because the Ace of Wands can be rather fragile energy here. It does represent a spark emerging, but that spark in the ace is not fully formed. It's just really pure potential trying to move upward. And it can get a bit fragile if it's energy that gets too strong without the structure to contain it, like the King of Cups is bringing in here. It becomes things like overwhelm or burnout or maybe impulsive actions or lots of action in the beginning and then things, peter out kind of quickly. So the King of Cups is actually a really great energy to behold with this playing out as things stabilize more formally in this new psychic function that you're developing here. So next we'll look at the feeling. What is the emotional undercurrent being worked? Oh, we got a few flung out here. I think I got one on the floor. So we've got the King's counterpart, the Queen of Cups. We've got a Queen of Pentacles and then the 8 of Cups here. Bottom on the deck is the 9 of Cups. This is a lot of cup energy with a bit of wands to bring it through. Again, we're doing cups and wands. Very fiery, but also very watery. So this structure, underneath this structure, with the King of Cups and the Ace of Wands rooting that structure. You have deep intuitive sensitivity here with the Queen of Cups. Like, you also have this inner fire building with the Queen of Wands. And then there's this emotional detachment from the old with the 8 of Cups happening at the same time. These are like 3 aspects, potentially the 3 aspects pointed out here that we'll get to in the sigil anatomy of your emotions, your passions, and then like your, I want to say maturation, like your understanding that certain aspects of your life or your way of being or your way of thinking have just simply expired and don't match this new feminine surge of energy coming through here. The Queen of Cups means that you're feeling more, you're sensing more, and you're really opening emotionally and psychically to this shift. And then the Queen of Wands, this is your desire waking up. And your confidence is stirring with this as well. She's a very confident lady. Actually, funny enough, looking at her face, she kind of reminds me of the lady that used to play in a really old show called Murder, She Wrote. I don't remember the lady's name, but that's what her face is bringing me back to. And this is really a warm kind of creative flame that's starting to burn within you. And then we go on to the 8 of Cups. You can't start this new beginning with the Fool until you leave what's unnecessary behind. And it lets me know that you're walking away from really just what doesn't match this. Then you're doing it quietly. I'm not feeling any drama here. You know, I'm not feeling any major like emotional goodbye or anything like that. I'm just hearing, okay, I'm done. And then you move on. 9 of Cups anchoring this whole thing down means that at the deepest level, you already know the shift is right for you. And you already feel supported emotionally, either by the universe, by your higher self, by just you yourself. I mean, even if the surface feels transitional, the shift is aligned with what will actually fulfill you here. I'm going to gather these together in one spot so we don't get messy. All right, so what truth is this sigil activating for you? Let's see this integration of this energy. Oh, that one flipped in reverse. We've got 2 majors on the table now. So we're looking here at the moon and the chariot on the bottom, and yikes, does this moon look creepy. She is a haggard old lady. And it looks like she's asking you to pick between the 2 towers. It almost feels like she's not letting this person cross between the 2 towers. They've got to choose one door or the other. There's no like straight through point. I'm hearing this is the invitation to the mysteries, to the unknown. I'm also hearing, can you take the task? Can you handle this journey through uncertainty? And this sigil is activating, or I guess better said, altering how you sense reality. Like the old reference points, they don't work anymore. You're actually leaving those behind in the 8 of Cups. Old interpretations, those won't apply either. Those are also being left behind here. You're also seeing through illusions with this moon card, especially your own. Blind spots maybe you didn't see before can become more noticeable, more apparent for you, or patterns that you thought were you. They're just kind of revealed to show you that they're actually not you. They never were, or maybe they aren't anymore. Part of this psychic shift is activating your night vision, I think would be a good way to term it, to develop and strengthen it more. Initially, there will be like this period of like uncertainty that increases, and that usually happens in general with this night vision activation I'm referring to here, before there's like any coherence stabilizing. And it's really just, it's you doing gym reps with the new awareness, because it's going to be an influx of like, oh my God, what am I doing? Where am I going? To suddenly you're like, okay, I know this energy actually, and I can navigate my way through it. And this also, with the moon, may be activating your unconscious material too. So things like dreams, symbols, body sensations, intuitive flashes. This is the unconscious rising to the surface. And this sigil is activating your ability to navigate that inner unknown with this unconscious material. And the chariot here on the bottom is actually a really great omen with this in partnership with the moon, because it means that you're gaining inner control over the shift. The chariot anchors your will, your direction, your mastery over opposing forces. It's also about choosing your path, like very resonant with the Two of Wands energy that we had reading down the Fool card. So it means like you're not meant to surrender to the moon at all. You're actually meant to steer through it confidently, moving through the unknown with intention. And the chariot says that you will gain mastery over whatever illusions and uncertainties the moon exposes. You're definitely not to avoid or succumb to the uncertainty. You're supposed to master it. All right, I want to see the hidden angle, and usually I leave the bottom card of the last position up for the overall bottom deck energy of the spread. But in this case, I feel like it needs to be separate, because the chariot was definitely speaking to me through the moon specifically, and not the whole reading overall. So this is the part you're not seeing, but it's still shaping how everything plays out. And we have the Three of Wands here with the Lovers on the bottom of the deck. Well, fascinating. So I dare say you're actually further along in this shift than you think you are. The Three of Wands is it's already in motion card. And so like the ships are already launched. The rest is really just timing. You're in the very first stages of a psychic shift, and your system is clearing the space. It's orienting toward a new spark. It's holding it steady emotionally, energetically, passionately, while you're shedding these old patterns. And even though it feels like it's early, the deeper architecture is actually already guiding you toward like a future alignment that will reshape your path. You're not at the decision point yet, but the future choice this shift will eventually require is actually already forming beneath the surface. All right, so we've got a bit of the context here with the tarot reading. I'm going to move the cards to the side. Let's look at how the sigil is actually working the energy. I'm going to pull up my iPad notes here and overlay the sigil for a few moments so you can see everything clearly without the ugly ring light glow. And feel free to take a screenshot of this part if you want to work with it later. So after every trance drawing, I always sit with the sigil for a few minutes, and I map out the immediate hits. So the symbol meanings, the structural patterns, any direct messages that come through right away. And sometimes I have to do a little extra digging on elements of the sigil. So I'll mark those areas up that stand out but need a deeper look. I am an eternal student of the occult myself, so if a symbol feels unfamiliar, I go research it before I shoot this video. But anyways, once I've got the notes and research done, I map everything directly onto the drawing in Procreate. And that's the version that you're looking at now, and the one I'll be referencing as we walk through the anatomy. So let's jump straight in. We're going to start with the overall archetypal energy, which for this sigil, I titled the primary archetype as the inner chamber based on the anatomy. And with the previous sigil, I think it's episode 3, the shift, that was about the moment that energy turns. And this sigil is the pivot moment. It's the realization. It's the flick of a switch, like the instant where your internal needle moves, and you know, okay, this trajectory is changing. So this is for a collective who is about to make a move, even if the move is very small. It may seem insignificant now, but as we saw as well in the cards with the Lovers and so forth, it actually becomes quite impressionable in the future. And this collective may be experiencing things like a direction change, an awakening of some sort. You're likely feeling the energy or push of momentum forming beneath your bones. There may be clarity flashes happening for you, or a sudden rising of energy or passion or inspiration. And those are part of my notes before we did the tarot reading. And so it's fascinating to see how this is confirmed with all the water and fire cards. So the collective that was drawn to Sigil 3, the last one, they were really feeling this like, holy shit, something just clicked kind of vibes. And the group this sigil is meant for are those in an internal process of becoming. So you're more experiencing like, I'm changing, but I don't know what I'm becoming yet kind of energy. And we may feel at a loss for words articulating it. I feel like Kat's got my tongue quite a bit. I'm stumbling over my words a bit more than usual. So, can't explain how or what this is becoming and in what way it's becoming. And this pod structure is very womb-like. I'm also seeing the archetype of the cave make itself known here. And so we're really coming from a period of feeling off lately, more internal, more quiet. It feels like this inner listening to, I'm seeing like cycles of dissolving and reforming and dissolving and reforming. So you've likely felt the cycle of this, especially the past month or so leading up to whenever you watch this video. It is timeless. And this does not feel to me like I'm ready to take action energy. And I think that was also confirmed here too. It's like you're in the pre-pregnant pause. You are in the 0 point, which is the breath before creation takes form. So while we're not ready to take action, it does feel like we're in a transition just before that direction reveals itself. And that, again, was echoed here because we had on the bottom of the deck, rooting it down, we had the 2 of Wands with the Fool. I believe it was the Ace of Wands with the King of Cups. And then we have the 3 of Wands here telling me these are all just kind of tick, 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 going in the proper order, the proper direction. We are just stating in this womb. And a lot of internal structuring here and subtle identity shifts are involved because it's a sigil for those who are pre-emergence. We cannot rush it. This is a force of its own, and divine timing heavily plays into this, especially echoed in that 3 of Wands here, where it's really just timing. Everything's in motion already. And the first point we go into in this sigil here is the black embryo seed looking thing in the center. When I was taking my notes after drawing, I wrote black tiger's eye. And I heard incubating psychic forces. And so I knew immediately after the sigil that this was about, I didn't know yet in what way because I hadn't done my research and got all my notes together. But I knew this was about a psychic force incubating right now. And tiger's eye is normally seen as a solar stone. Tiger's eye is about clarity and it's the energy of focus and confidence. But when it appears black, that solar force has been taken to the underworld, the unconscious. And this embryo, this seed or stone, take it as it resonates. It is the shadow seed. It's a ball of unrealized power sitting in the unconscious. And I like to call the unconscious the primordial goo. And this unrealized power is waiting in that goo to be shaped. It is the primordial goo that these psychic forces are incubating. And you can think of this as, you know, carrying a baby to term, right? The primordial goo would be kind of the amniotic fluid. Shoot, now I forget what it's called, and I had 2 kids 20 years ago. But the amniotic fluid, they are the kind of goo that everything is coming together in, so that the cells can merge and create that baby, that infant, that embryo. I'm also hearing, when I'm seeing this, is the hidden sun within the earth. Oh yes, okay, that makes total sense. The black sun. The black sun is a symbol in many esoteric traditions. Some say it's like a process in alchemy. Some say it symbolizes things like inner power and cosmic energy. But either way, you know, it really holds significance in the sigil's function and message. And I encourage you to look into this more. Check out the black sun. You may get all kinds of weird search results just searching that. So you might want to put something like occult at the end, or esoteric traditions, things like that, to kind of narrow down your search results. But it's really quite a fascinating symbol, and I think it actually ties in and correlates a lot with the whole function of the sigil as we break through it. It's also really important to note here that this collective is very, very psychic. Undoubtedly, to me, I mean, you may be channelers, you may be readers, sensitives, you may simply just be people incredibly in tune with energy in your inner world right now. And what you're incubating here is the seed of spiritual vision before its awakening. This is like exactly the state before an oracle or a mystic or an initiate develops a new sight, a new vision, a new way of perceiving the world around them. Anyways, tree thought. So, black tiger's eye. This fits perfectly here too, because it helps with root level grounding. Black tiger's eye is also great for shadow integration and psychic containment. Fundamentally, we're developing psychic perception from the inside out before it becomes visible or usable here. So it's calling in the energy of those who are about to develop intuition in a new way. I mean, I guess we could say this is a psychic formation sigil. My word, I can't use my words today. A psychic formation sigil, because you're developing this, and it gets more fascinating as we get through the symbols here as to what that is. But next I want to talk about the womb. So the pod shape is the womb, or the cocoon, or the incubator, and it is where your new psychic sense is actively growing, but it's still hidden here. It's contained and it's protected. And this sigil stabilizes the formation of that psychic perception. It creates a sealed chamber around the process as it cooks, and it stresses to me that it is very, very critical to the formation of this inner shift to really just let that energy cook. I'm almost getting like this tisk tisk from a grandmother presence who's like pushing my hand away from a hot pot. There is no sampling before the meal is ready. So don't rush the rebirth. Let the energy cook so that this new perception, when it's ready to come through, it comes through really clean. And that containment of the womb is strongly represented here with this King of Cups. And I feel like, if anything, these 2 queens here are representing what's happening within the seed pod. But this king would be the outer structure of the womb, protecting it, containing it, and stabilizing it so it doesn't go kaput like an Ace of Wands out of control. Now the air symbol at the bottom here. Air is an interesting component, really, because the rest of the archetype is very lunar and very feminine. We have a womb, we have a seed, we have a crescent moon, we have Venus. All of these emanate a very feminine energy, all of these Queen of Cups energy, but then you have the air sign with the masculine energy. And I personally see air as a very intuitive element. It's intuitive through the mind. So it represents things like clarity or perception or logic and pattern recognition. But it also represents internal understanding and intuitive seeing without visions. And so this is telling me that this perception developing here, this is not like emotional intuition, which comes through the heart chakra. It's not your gut instinct developing, that comes through the solar plexus. And it's not emotional feeling, which comes through your sacral chakra. And it's certainly not pointing to me any mysticism, emotional mysticism, psychic mysticism activities. So third eye, clairvoyance, visions, trancing, channeling. The psychic forces that you're incubating actually operate on the mental body. That's things like pattern recognition, which comes very strong when you are tuning into your claircognizance. That's also insight without any imagery. That's just basically knowing and getting these downloads of a complete package, a complete truth, without needing to see or hear anything. And it's also, for me, your heightened mental perception. So it's your spidey senses, is what I like to call them, because they're just these little feelers that maybe don't do anything visual, audio, or sensationally. They come through the mind as just this little, I picture spider arms, feeling and sensing around the area to pick up what it needs to interpret. And in chakra terms, I mentioned, solar plexus, sacral, heart chakra, third eye. And this one actually sits between the third eye and the crown chakra, which is known as the upper mind channel. In tantric traditions, this is referred to as the Bindu chakra. In certain Western mystery schools, you have Alta Major, is what they call it. And that chakra really governs subtle mind and higher mind, as well as your internal seeing, things like mental clarity and pattern recognition, all syncing with this subtle perception ability that the chakra allows for. That psychic formation taking place is developing new means of intuition and psychic abilities for you in this upper mind channel chakra area. And in combination, the seed, the pod, the air sign, these show that the chamber where the new intuition forms is in this pod, and what it is, which is the new psychic insight itself, the seed. And the way this site will function is the air sign, the mental body. So in a nutshell, it's just clear knowing. It's just knowing something because you get the download, because you pick up the pattern recognition and the subtle cues around you in your environment. Also referred to as claircognizance, if you're familiar with the clairs. And then we have the descent column here, and this little arm looking thing right here. And this is how the process starts. So the left vertical column is the axis mundi of the sigil. Axis mundi really just means the connection between, or the bridge between, the conscious and the unconscious. And when it's vertical like that in a sigil, generally it will imply the unconscious to the conscious, or vice versa. And it shows the descent into the subconscious so that the reorganization can really take place. It can really happen here. On this arm, we also have a black triangle. With the triangle being black and angled more kind of off to the side. It's not really, like, from our perception, laying flat on any kind of surface here. And it tells me this point is not active yet, being on its side. It's changing, it's charging, it's building energy. But when there's triangles and sigils, they generally represent that activation or ignition. But here it's in the pre-activation kind of sleeper state. And then I counted it like 3 times because I miscounted a few times, but there are 5 dots here beneath the triangle. These are reading to me as maybe perception, like your 5 senses, queuing up to assist with the shifting into this new psychic perception. This could represent the 5-pointed pentagram, which showcases the human structure. This could be representing 5 stages of development once it's activated in this new psychic ability. 5s for me are my number for transformation through integration. So this reads as like 5 micro stages of the psychic formation most strongly in the body and in the subtle senses through them interacting and integrating together. It's the number of calibrating your instinct and your intuition. And then we'll move to the chevron arrows. And these show movement. I want to note as well that they are actually outside of the sigil. They're external to the sigil, like this little conglomeration over here. And so this tells me, first of all, that this movement, this direction is something that is external, catalyzing you for a change, essentially. So these symbolize to me directed psychic energy, and it means that your attention is being pulled inward so that the internal shift can finish forming. And that's very much in alignment here with this King of Cups again. There's compression here. Again, I want to emphasize, to catalyze the change. So it's like this. If you think of a machine and it's compressing and putting pressure into and then releasing and putting, it's building up this kind of catalytic momentum for a change to take place. The 3 flanges here. I mentioned when we got these cards that these 3 flanges here could be representing these elements of the queen, the 2 queens, and I think it was the king potentially. And these are a support system here. We can see here where that divine connection line, which is right here, joins the main arm, and we get this triadic structure. The 3 flares can show up differently for each person. These could symbolize things like conscious, unconscious, transpersonal. This may symbolize for some, this could be your instinct, your emotion, and your intuition. And others may experience this as past self, present self, and future self emerging. I'm getting more triads coming through now. And so it might be significant for some of you. I'm seeing this come through as maybe a current from above, a current from within, and then a current from the body. Or your physical self, your emotional self, and your intuitive higher self are the triad participating in this inner shift. Now, no matter how this triad is playing out for you, whatever the support system looks like for you, in all cases or applications, this is where internal and divine currents are converging. You can see this as a convergence zone. And they're doing so to support the new psychic perception coming through. So whatever it is converging here, whatever is supporting it in this connection, comes in 3s. And then let's move to the outer arm. Now, the outer arm I have labeled in my notes as the divine pipe. And this is the exoskeleton. It's the outer shell that keeps the inner shift contained and uninterrupted. It also serves kind of as this like protective boundary. Nothing leaks in, nothing leaks out. It's like pure incubation here. But this line, most importantly, also moves off and out there, linking the interchange to something bigger, like a higher unseen source. This is linking it to a divine intelligence. I see this as like the umbilical cord of the sigil, and it shows me this psychic development is not generated just by you. It's not like you picked up a book one day and said, I want to be claircognizant. How can I work towards this? And you're trying to self-generate this development. This is actually guided by a higher intelligence. And this is arguably the most important line in the whole sigil, because what it's showing me first and foremost is that you are not doing this alone. You're divinely supported in this and actually being guided in this endeavor. This cluster here, we have the crescent moon, the Venus symbol, and then it's 3 ascending nodes. They get smaller as they go up and out. And this cluster finally shows how the psychic sense will activate when it's ready. The moon symbolizes like your lunar psychic intuition and unconscious forces. And we saw that here in the moon card. And this is a waxing crescent moon, which means this is increasing sensitivity. It's waking it up here. And while it's not fully illuminated yet like a full moon would be, it is building that direction. And then the Venus. The Venus symbol ties this into receptivity and magnetism and the relational or feeling function that we have. This tells me your intuition grows by following what you're naturally drawn toward, not by force, just naturally magnetized towards. And this means your attention actually magnetizes what you're meant to notice. And then with 3 ascending dots, these are reading to me as like 3 steps of illumination. Step 1 would be subtle noticing. Step 2 would be pattern recognition. And then the 3rd step is inner knowing. And these dots tell me that your intuition is sharpening in 3 gradual small stages, not dramatic and not sudden, just click, click, click awakening. It's also kind of a significant position here because the position of this dot, these dots, they rise and they move outward to the right. And it's the same direction as the divine pipe moves. And this shows me that your intuition rising is rising toward higher level of awareness. And it's doing it gradually and naturally. I also want to note this cluster sits outside of the structure. And I have it noted as about to land. This feels to me like almost like a spaceship coming into the surface of something, and it's about to dock. It's about to land on this sigil. So it's about to enter the process of this main sigil's archetype and energy. The moon, Venus, and this intuition rising are all about to integrate, and they're coming. They are very, very close to landing here. Okay, well, wow, powerful energy. The sigil really places you in the initiatory inner chamber stage. So you're not in the death part of it. You're not in the rebirth part of it. You're actually in the middle period in between death and rebirth where the transformation happens. We've got a central dark pod, which is your inner chamber. We've got the temple or cocoon with the outer protective womb-like structure. We've got these nodes here, 3 ascending ones, and a sigil or a small ignition chamber with a black triangle the moment that you exit the chamber through the divine pipe. You're in a middle phase of inner initiation. It's the deep internal work that happens before a visible breakthrough. So first and foremost, I want to tell you congratulations, because you've done a lot of inner work to get here. And it's a long process that one goes through to really clear out what is unnecessary so these new subtle influences can really emerge and take form, take shape without the burnout, without overwhelm, and without overdoing it for yourself. You should be really proud of yourself. This inner chamber phase shows up in a lot of mystery traditions, actually, and it's really bringing me back to, oh man, what is his name? Freddie Silva. Yes, okay, Freddie Silva. And he was talking about his work in the Lost Art of Resurrection, I believe it's called. It's been out there at least a decade now, but from what I remember, he talked about how ancient initiates would undergo a symbolic death and rebirth while still alive. They would do so inside an inner chamber designed for inner transformation. And the sigil is sitting right in that same archetypal space. It's really worth checking out his book, or I binge watched a bunch of his seminar discussions on YouTube years ago. If you want to go deeper into this, and note to myself to type this on the screen during edit so you guys don't have to guess how to spell it. But anyways, to wrap this up, this is the incubation of psychic forces, specifically that higher form of claircognizance. Basically, immediate downloads of pure knowledge, like I mentioned before. In this sigil, it's held, this formation. It's sealed and it's being guided. It's not ready yet, but undeniably forming. And if this sigil hits for you, you're in that quiet mid-formation phase where something inside you is reorganizing into this higher psychic sense. And if you want to work with the Sigil directly, the digital downloads for the art print and Oracle card versions are linked below in the description. And each of those versions will include a photo of my Procreate overlay notes in case you want to really zoom in on them. I'm not sure how great they come through on a screenshot. So anyways, I will cut the jibber jabber here and outro this video with a time lapse so you can see how this one came to form. See you on the next Sigil stream.